is interesting, just looking at Oriental, that my first impression of it is all of the dark areas appear lighter, which I think makes sense because it is now facing, well, it's still relatively the same to the sun, but my angle to it is different. So I'm looking at it from a little more, even further to the side as we pass it. But all the darker features appear to be just a little bit lighter from this vantage point. The darker ring structure in the outer and inner ring and the interior, as well as the annular ring portion, everything seems to be just a smidge lighter at this point.
Thanks for that description, Ike. Any additional words you can provide on Oriental would be wonderful, as that is such a high priority target for us. And while I have you, as we get closer to target 15, which is the Terminator target, if you can find Zeeman Crater again that you were looking at earlier, everything to your left of Zeeman would be getting into the South Pole Aitken area to help you orient yourself.
Zeeman is a great waypoint out there. I definitely see it. Yeah, Zeeman is very easy to find, and that is awesome. Thank you for pointing that out. Feel free to do that as often as you think of things. Let's see, looking back at Oriental. Okay, another thing, after looking through the zoom camera, man, you guys are smart. You probably did this on purpose, but after looking with my plain eyes and then going to the 400 millimeter zoom, now looking at it, I see the cliff face as if you were standing in the center. That inner and outer ring have definitely some real terrain to them, and now I can see that as terrain. Now that I look at it even with my naked eye, I can tell that there's a lot of elevation and that, like I said, a cliff face on that eastern edge where all the darker deposits are. And it's just the scale now. Looking at it from far away, before it seemed like flat with color painted on it, but now that I look at it, I can definitely see that there is, different depositional characteristics, and so the darker is some other material, but there's also some shadowing going on because of the cliff face that is a part of that crater wall.
Great description, Victor. Thanks, and really interesting to hear now the distinction between shadow and color. Before I let you go back to other observations, you mentioned that Reed saw a browner hue to the annular ring than the rest of Oriental. Are you seeing that from your vantage point?
The way that I'm looking at Oriental, again, I'm still in the docking hatch window. There's like a thermocouple right here in the center of the window, and it is the orange Kapton tape color, and so it is unfortunately, it's like trying to look at stars, next to a metropolis. I think it's drowning out any color that I could pick up from the moon. I am not able to see that color, but I have not looked at it through one of the forward face, from one of the windows 1 through 4. I think when I get away from this Kapton tape strip that I would be able to see the variation that Reed's talking about.
That is great feedback operationally. Thanks, Victor. I'll leave you to it.
Science integrity with a question from the window team.
Integrity, this is Science here with you.
Yes, they have a question to help inform a theory that they're sort of tossing back and forth. What is older, the Mare seas of the near side or Oriental?
Stand by, Integrity. We're going to get you a little geologic history here. Integrity Science back with you for some lunar volcanism when you're ready.
Go ahead.
You're making our day down here getting to talk about lunar volcanoes. Oriental, as far as mare go, is younger than almost all of the mare on the near side. The exception are features like Aristarchus, which really pop out to you guys and really pop out to us here on Earth. That is younger, but other than that, Oriental is pretty young as far as mare go.
And Kelsey, thanks for that. We love lunar volcanism too. How about when the actual crater was formed?
Yeah, we're going to get you an age for Oriental, and while we're getting that, Christina, can you, maybe you've heard the window team talk about the sort of contacts around Oriental, but because that material is so much younger, if anything pops out to you about physical relationship between that and surrounding terrain, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. They are discussing a contact relationship that could explain some of the color that they're seeing in certain areas. And so it was really about the ejecta of the creation of the basin and understanding the superposition of its ejecta and mare on the near side or other features. So thank you. We'll take the insight when you have it.
Thank you, Integrity. And I know Jenny wants to get to you with some topics, so I'll leave you with Oriental is 3.8 billion years old.
Copy that. So that's on the older side. The actual basin is very old.
Correct, as is the case with a lot of mare. Typically the big basin formed and then the volcanic eruption was able to punch through the crust where it was weakened by that basin formation.
Perfect. Tracking. Thank you.
NASA astronaut Christina Cook calling down some questions to the science team on console. The voice you're hearing with those answers is Dr. Kelsey Young. She is joined by Trevor Graff on console today. Christina asking about the age of Oriental and specifically the Mare regions. Those are those dark regions that you see. They are paved or filled by volcanic deposits.
Better answer.
Integrity, it's about time for a position swap at the window. So we will ask Reed and Jeremy to swap positions. And I'll remind you again about your SD cards. And Victor or Christina, I have one window task for the cabin team when you're ready.
They are swapping, and I'm ready.
All right, Tina, we found a way that we can reinstall the shroud on the window. We understand it's pretty darn bright compared to everything that you're looking at. So in order to reinstall it, we will ask that you retrieve the condensation hose and you install it on a friction fit on the cabin air outlet port. That's right by one of your diffusers. You're going to point that little condensation hose such that the air is flowing over the window pane. Let me know when you're ready for the stowage location.
Ready.
Christina, the hose is in locker A1.
The crew has gotten a go to reinstall that window shroud they were using to block some of the earth shine.
Copy.
This view coming from inside the Orion spacecraft as the crew members are swapping windows, specifically Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. They've been our crew members at the windows taking photos, making annotations, and making recordings that'll be downlinked later to the science team for review. The science team will have a conference tomorrow morning with the crew to get any fresh perspectives or things that they learned during the flyby. Again, we are now in the third of 5 observation blocks for the crew scheduled for today. During this flyby, Orion is passing around between 4,000 and 6,000 miles from the moon and providing the crew with a full view of the lunar surface. It's a higher vantage point and much farther than Apollo's lunar orbits on average. So from this view, astronauts can observe both the North and South Pole and large-scale geologic features in one single view. We are now just under an hour until Orion passes behind the moon, and we lose communication with the crew. They will be out of reach with any of our deep space network antennas. That loss of signal will last about 40 minutes, and we expect to regain communications with them once they fly behind the other side of the moon. While they are behind the moon, they will also reach their max Earth altitude as well as their closest approach to the lunar surface. The view you have right now is a live stream from a camera on Orion's solar arrays. You are looking at a live view of the moon, and 4 people are inside that spacecraft taking pictures of it, telling us everything that they are seeing. The first humans to do so in over 50 years. They'll be sending those pictures down for all of us to enjoy, and of course, especially the science team, who are very excited for what they are learning today. It appears the Artemis 2 spacecraft, Orion, is now under 5,000 miles away from the moon. Again, we expect their closest distance to the moon be about 4,066 miles. That is an estimate at this point, and we will make sure to share that closest approach distance once we receive it.
Houston, integrity question. Did you just want us to cool the window with the condensation hose, or did you want us to put the shroud back on and cool the window at the same time?
Victor, we definitely want you to cool down the window with the condensation hose. It's crew preference whether you put the shroud back on. The hose will allow you to do that if it helps with your lunar flyby.
Okay, copy. We're going to do both at the same time. Thank you.
Houston copies.
Houston, thank you for that suggestion. The cabin is darkened again, and that makes a big difference for the imagery. And for science, we are now seeing a half moon.
Thank you, Victor. We're happy to hear it, and we see half moon, full moon joy still.
Crew reporting from Orion that they are seeing half the moon, which is about what it looks like here from this view from the spacecraft. However, what has become a little bit of a catchphrase for this mission, everyone is reporting full moon joy. We are keeping up with which targets the crew is tracking through their lunar targeting package. They are just wrapping up their second.
Science integrity, another observation the window team commented on and Christine and I discussed a bit is in Hertzsprung. The solid and intact crater is very smooth. If it were a dirt road, it's very hard packed, and then you go outside of it, and that outer crater, that's the one that is older. It is a little rougher and more jagged, and starts to get into more loose-looking terrain. And the smooth interior also causes the craters that are inside of the larger crater, the smaller craters, to have really sharp edges, sharp, distinct edges. And just a general comment on that area, Hertzsprung, that whole area, the average albedo there is darker. That is, I would say, 3. And the average albedo around Oriental and between Oriental and Ohm, excluding the wedge, the darker wedge, is more on the 6-7. And that they also seem to be different texturally. Christina described it earlier around Hertzsprung, and then from Hertzsprung toward Oriental, there appears to be a frozen, a rippling pond, but frozen, or like choppy waves when it's windy out, choppy water, and then it freezes instantly. That's the texture. If you walk down there barefoot, it looks like it would be hard on your feet, like lava. After it's cooled, it would be pokey. Except for right there in the center of Hertzsprung, it looks paved, like a paved road, nice and smooth.
Victor, that's a wonderful description. Going from a paved road to lava reminds us of the Icelandic highlands. Thanks for that.
In science, another in the interior of the very intact, the interior of the intact crater at Hertzsprung is albedo variation. I think I heard one of the window crew maybe say color variation, but definitely albedo variation. There's lighter patches and slightly darker patches. It's not swirling, it's just patchy. It just has spots that are lighter, and I would say a predominantly darker average area.
Great descriptions, Victor. Thanks. Not swirly, just patchy is really helpful for us.
Really great descriptions coming from
Science, the window team is hitting all the targets. They are on plan and starting the discussion of the Terminator. And boy, I'm loving the Terminator. I think I know it's not purely a moon feature, but what it does to the features of the moon, to the terrain, I've probably spent the most time describing into my recordings and thinking about and looking at the Terminator. There's just so much magic in the Terminator. The islands of light, the valleys, what look like black holes. You'd fall straight to the center of the moon if you stepped in some of those. It's just so visually captivating that the Terminator is the most striking thing that I've seen so far.
We've been loving your evocative descriptions, Victor. You really are bringing us along with you, and we're following along with visualizations that pale in comparison to your descriptions. Thanks. Integrity Science, one more question on a status of what the window team chose to observe for crew choice.
Window 2 talked about Vavilov, look for suspended dust, and the Terminator. And window 3 about the experience and about the three-dimensionality of the moon this close.
Wonderful.
And another observation about Oriental, I would say, is the features going off to the southwest, the two large, almost look like scratches in the surface. I don't know if they're rays or canyons or collapsed lava tubes, but two distinct features that are almost parallel going off southwest from Oriental Basin. They are the first things that made me notice parallax of our trajectory looking out at Oriental. That and in the inner walls of the east side of the crater rings, you really get a sense that we're flying over something with elevation and terrain, and they look different from this orientation.
Love to hear it, Victor, and you had it that those chains are actually crater rays, secondary craters formed from the formation of Oriental.
Yeah, speaking of crater rays, the crater rays that are going off to the northwest, that run off toward Hertzsprung and I believe toward Vavilov. I'm not looking at it right now, but those crater rays are very interesting. They're all very small. I know you've imaged this, but they're all small and they look like, you know, a big impact launched rocks and things that made smaller impacts down the way. But something very interesting, and again, you can see this in imagery, but some of them are parallel, and then some of them converge toward the center of Oriental. And then I think I even saw some that maybe diverge, which not diverge, but that are convergent, which indicate multiple large impacts that created a lot of secondary impact crater rays.
Fantastic, Victor, and I'll note that we can infer that you're looking down at your freshly named Integrity crater, which is near the end of one of those beautiful crater rays from Oriental. Thanks for the description.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Integrity is easily identifiable with the naked eye from this point.
We've been hearing some great situation reports from Victor Glover, the pilot of the Artemis 2 mission, calling down to the science team, letting them know what he is seeing. And one of those things is Hertzsprung Basin. If you look just to the right of the Terminator, that is the difference between light and darkness on the moon. You can see what he's describing when he says Hertzsprung Basin and how it looks a little bit paved in the middle there. It's almost in the very center of the moon in this view, coming from the Orion spacecraft and a camera mounted on its solar array. We are now 4 days, 23 hours, and 23 minutes into the flight of Artemis 2, and we are standing by for their lunar loss of signal in about 43 minutes. Again, the spacecraft will fly behind the moon, and during that time, we won't have communication with them. They will be out of reach of our deep space network. However, we will regain communication with them approximately 40 minutes later when they come around the other side of the moon. The crew aboard the spacecraft are currently discussing the Terminator, that difference between day and night. The science team is interested in learning about the topography and the color of the lunar surface, and it's already been very interesting to hear that they have seen colors like greens and browns while looking at the moon. Some of the questions that they are hoping the crew will discuss are how do the quantities and sizes of craters and mountains vary along the terminator, and they are looking for the crew to describe the topography of features along or near the terminator. They're also looking for more information on any color or tone variations, and they're hoping that the crew will take images to illustrate their findings. Glover reported earlier that the crew has missed none of their targets when they are photographing at the window. We aren't hearing the conversations that the crew is having right now, but these are being recorded to their personal computer devices, PCDs, and those will be sent down to the science team. The science team will have a conference with the crew tomorrow morning to discuss their findings and experience when looking at the moon today. We have a few minutes left while the crew is discussing the terminator, and if you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of the moon, our moon, from the Orion spacecraft and a camera on its solar array. Inside that spacecraft, 4 astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen, the first 4 people to fly around the moon in over 50 years. This is our lunar flyby day, and the crew has already surpassed one record today. The crew passed the Apollo 13 distance record at 12:57 p.m. Central, 1:57 p.m. Eastern. Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen calling down that he hopes it's a record soon broken by other explorers. We are live in Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas, monitoring the flight of Artemis 2. All of the flight controllers here, each monitoring a different system aboard the Orion spacecraft.
Integrity Houston, we are ready for our cabin and window teams to swap again. We have a 15-minute handover time here, and I have a couple of items I want to read up to you. They'll require you to write something down on your knee boards, so let me know when you're ready.
Okay, Houston, we are ready.
Copy, Integrity. First of all, once you start this next shift here, during this lunar observation shift, we will begin our lunar LOS, so you can expect a call from me a few minutes prior reminding you. And second of all, FIDO just sent us updated altitudes and METs for lunar closest approach and max Earth altitude. Let me know when you are ready to write those down. They differ slightly from Optimus.
Thanks, Jenny. We are ready to copy.
Lunar closest approach will be at MET 5 days, 0 hours, 25 minutes, 34 seconds, and the altitude will be 4,067 statute miles. Maximum Earth altitude will be at MET 5 days, 0 hours, 27 minutes, 39 seconds with an altitude of 252,756 statute miles.
The crew really wants to ask for that in kilometers and in parsecs, but thank you for those. That is great. Thanks for that update.
I'll send Fido to work, and I appreciate the metric. Other than that, I have no new vehicle statuses to pass to you. Enjoy your handover time, and we're looking forward to picking back up with you shortly.
All right, we'll talk to you shortly.
Those words called from Capcom Jenny Gibbons, CSA astronaut and Artemis II backup crew member, to the crew working aboard the Orion spacecraft. Had a little bit of a view inside the cabin. As you can see, it is very dark. The crew has turned off the lights, and the light that you were able to see is coming through the window, a reflection of Earthshine and from the moon. The crew is moving into their next observation block, meaning they are taking time to switch cabin and window teams. We've had Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen at the windows taking pictures and making annotations and recording some audio files that will be downlinked later to the science team. Meanwhile, Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their midday meal. Now that we are swapping positions, the support team becomes Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. They will be in the background helping with SD card swaps, as well as providing those situational reports to the science team. Victor Glover and Christina Cook will be the astronauts at the window, photographing and speaking into those PCDs, portable computing devices, about what they're seeing on the moon. As you heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, this block is also when we will lose communications with the crew. That LOS, or loss of signal, scheduled to be less than 35 minutes from now. We anticipate to be out of signal with them for about 40 minutes, and will regain that communication once they've flown around the other side of the moon. Now, even though the crew will be flying behind the moon, their observation period does not stop. They will still be taking pictures and making annotations of what they are seeing. They'll be looking for the limb of the moon, Earthset, and then Vavilov crater, which we have previously seen. They'll swap positions at the window before moving into a crew choice option. They will get to pick things that are interesting to them on the surface, take pictures, and explain why they find them that way. They'll also be looking for any impact flashes. These are short-lived flashes on the lunar surface caused by impact bombardment. Just before Earthrise, the crew will be looking for lofted lunar dust. This may be lofted just above the lunar surface, and we could only see it just before Earthrise along the dark western limb. Any Earthshine would illuminate potential lofted dust. But once the crew is all the way around the Earth, the brightness of the Earth will wash out any of that dust they might be able to see. These were based on observations from Apollo missions and orbital spacecraft, and so we're very interested to see if the crew might be able to capture some of that lunar dust today. Following that lofted lunar dust target, the next will be Earthrise. We will regain communications with the crew shortly after Earthrise. There will be a short observation break period where the moon is not in view. That's because we are also anticipating the crew seeing an eclipse today. The moon won't be in view because the team here in Mission Control Houston will need to change the attitude of the spacecraft and ensure that its solar arrays are gathering light from the sun heading into that eclipse period. So we will have communication with the crew, we just won't be able to see the moon. However, we will have views during that eclipse time frame. During that time, the science team is looking to know it will only be illuminated by Earthshine at that point. So they want to know what the whole moon looks like overall, but they also want the crew to look into deep space and potentially see if they can spot any planets. Once the eclipse is over, the lunar flyby period will have ended. We are live through the whole thing, and even once flyby is over today, we remain live 24/7 on NASA's YouTube.
Integrity, you got a moment?
Go ahead.
I don't know if Catherine and Devin are still there, but if they are, just wanted to just let them know how much fun we're having out here. It's extraordinary to be on the far side of the moon right now, just seeing hanging out there and looking back at the Earth. And Ashley and Kaylin, I know you're back in Canada, but if you happen to be watching too, just wanted to say hi to all you guys. Love you guys, and we'll be heading back your way shortly.
Thanks, Jeremy. I hear they are watching, and your family is still here. So thanks for passing that along.
This view inside the Orion spacecraft, and it's a little hard to make out, but on the left there, that is Jeremy Hansen just calling down some well wishes to his family, joining us in the viewing room and watching online. Currently in the window are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. They are taking pictures outside of the window as they are now in their flyby observation block. At this time, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen are serving as support crew members, and they are also going to have an opportunity to enjoy their midday meal at this time. On the lunch menu today for Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen, we have vegetarian chili, salmon croquettes, chicken with peanut sauce, sweet and savory kale, pickled beets, chocolate pudding, barbecued beef brisket, spaghetti and meat sauce, Italian vegetables, butternut squash, candy-coated chocolates, and maybe even a little bit of coffee. And if you look closely, you can see it looks like they are getting into some of their food for the midday meal. All of the food on the spacecraft is rehydratable. We don't have an option for fresh food as there's not a refrigerated section of the Orion spacecraft. So all of this food can either be rehydrated or eaten straight from the package, just depends on what the food actually is. And for food that needs to be rehydrated, there is information on each package of how much water needs to fill that bag and what temperature it needs to be. We are now 4 days, 23 hours, and 39 minutes, 40 minutes actually, into the flight of Artemis 2, the spacecraft now under 4,500 miles from the moon. We are now also under 30 minutes away from loss of signal with the astronauts. We will regain that communication about 40 minutes later. They will still be photographing the moon and documenting what they're seeing while they're behind the moon. And we especially look forward to potential Earthset and Earthrise views. As you can see on the left side of your screen, we are streaming this solar array camera view throughout the flyby. And the science team also plans to capture an occasional still photo with the solar array intermittently, perhaps one every 8 to 10 minutes. Still photos represent the highest resolution imagery from those GoPro cameras. So starting 5 minutes before Earthset and loss of signal, the science team will capture a series of photos, one every 30 seconds, to include Earthset all the way through 5 minutes after Earthrise and acquisition of signal. In order to capture these frequent photos, the solar array camera that we were streaming will need to switch to time-lapse photo mode. So during this time, the streaming video quality won't be as sharp as you have it right now, but we want to ensure that the science team captures the data that they need during these time frames. And we really look forward to seeing those higher resolution images once they're available. But with the view you are seeing right now, we are sharing bandwidth on the Orion spacecraft with every system that is keeping the spacecraft powered and the crew alive, especially the environmental control and life support system. As this is the first flight with crew, this is also the first flight of a life support system, keeping the crew healthy and safe on the way to the moon and the way home. On the timeline, we're getting towards the end of the cabin and window team swap period, but it looks like our astronauts, Victor Glover and Christina Cook, are already photographing the moon outside of those windows. The next target is Ohm Crater, and this is something that they have photographed previously during the flyby. This is a small, complex crater with a prominent ray system, and as referenced earlier, it's the size of the Eye of the Sahara. That Eye of the Sahara is a feature in Mauritania. Seeing this crater more than once throughout the flyby allows the crew to photograph it at different lighting conditions. Those different lighting conditions help expose different portions of the target and can help the science team learn a little bit more about how it formed and what it is today. Again, this view inside the spacecraft as the crew continues photographing the moon outside their windows. They have turned the lights off to allow them to better get photos of the moon, preventing any reflections from coming in from the spacecraft. We expect the crew to be targeting Ohm Crater for another 6 minutes or so before they move into a discussion of the limb. Now, the science team has asked for a science sit rep or situation report during that time, so we hope to hear calls from the crew on what they are observing. If you've been following along, at the start of the day, we did have much more of the moon visible. And even just an hour or so ago, we could see about half of the moon. We are now continuing to see more of the far side and that darkness where the moon is not reflecting light from the sun. Earlier, we were also able to see some of those darker portions, that old lava flow that we often see on the near side of the moon and that we can all see from Earth. That has mostly gone away. We are now just seeing very little of Oriental. That's down to the bottom right of the moon. You can see just a small dark portion near the limb. We are now about 18 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion crew. Again, we use the Deep Space Network to communicate with the crew members when they are this far from Earth. This is the first mission since Apollo when we have had humans on the Deep Space Network. As you recently heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, We expect their closest approach to the moon to be at MET, or mission elapsed time, of 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds. At that time, their altitude would be 4,067 statute miles above the Earth's surface. Just over 2 minutes later, they will reach their maximum distance from Earth. At mission elapsed time, 5 minutes, 5 days, 27 minutes, and 39 seconds. The altitude at that time would be 252,756 statute miles. These are our latest numbers, and we'll make sure to verify and confirm those once those milestones have been achieved. Obviously, we will be without communication to the spacecraft at that time, so once we regain communication, we will make sure to find out those numbers and report those to you. Checking in on the lunar targeting package, the crew is now in their discussion of the limb, seeing the limb of the moon, that illuminated part. Currently at the windows taking photos and making annotations are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. We are expecting loss of signal in about 13 minutes. We will regain that signal with the crew about 40 minutes later. A milestone worth mentioning that this day marks the first time in more than 50 years that humans will observe the moon directly, a critical opportunity to practice how lunar science will be conducted during future Artemis missions. I've continued to reference the lunar targeting package throughout this broadcast, which is the primary tool guiding the crew observations, and that consists of two key components. The first of those is the Lunar Geography Review, which helped the astronauts study major lunar. The Lunar Targeting Plan provides a detailed timeline of observation targets, background science context, and specific instructions for the picture the crew should take, and verbal descriptions of what will be helpful to the science team reviewing those pictures later. That's what we've been tracking real time and what the crew is using right now to keep up with their next milestones.
Integrity Houston, 10 minutes till the LOS. We'll take a snappy sit rep from the cabin if you have one.
Okay, Jenny, that came, we missed most of that, but just a 10-minute warning, is that what you're saying?
10-minute warning for the LOS, and I'll take a quick sit rep from the cabin, please.
All right, cabin is still full of excitement. We've got Christina in window 2, Ike in Victor in window 3. Reed's actually been trying to get some images out of the docking tunnel. We can see the Earth and the Moon and part of the Moon out of the docking tunnel, which is pretty good. And I'm just grabbing some footage right now with our interior cameras.
Copy, Jeremy. We'd like to know what camera Reed is using and also the status of window 1. Looks like there might be a shroud removed.
Okay. Reed was using the Z9, and the T-shirt shroud is still on window 1, but we took the camera out of it. So maybe that's what you're noticing. But when I looked in there, I saw a lot of sunlight reflecting around.
Copy. That makes a lot of sense to us, Jeremy. I want to remind you, coming up on this LOS, that we'll take sit reps in the blind. And as more and more of the moon is in darkness, we will take any report you have on impact flashes.
All right, Jenny, you have to say again your last. There's a lot of conversation here, and I was on the other side of the cabin, so I missed all of it.
Look out for impact flashes, and we'll take sit reps in the blind.
Okay, impact flashes, sit reps in the blind. We got it. And yeah, just so you understand what's going on with window 1, there is light coming through the outer hall from window 2 into the inside of window 1, if that makes sense. Like I can see the inside of the vehicle when I look between the 2 panes of glass.
Copy.
You're getting your first live look at Orion, the Moon, and the Earth. Everyone in this picture. This is a live view from the Orion spacecraft. Currently aboard Orion, 4 crew members, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. And on the Earth, all of us, all of humanity. You can see the moon is starting to get a little bit dimmer as the astronauts are going to pass behind it. Now 6 minutes and 26 seconds away from that loss of signal. Again, we will be out of communication with them for about 40 minutes until they come around the other side of the moon and we can re-establish contact.
Integrity Houston, you are 6 minutes from your 40-minute lunar flyby LOS. From all of us, it's a privilege to witness you carrying the fire past our farthest reach. Thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you for that, Jenny. And thank you to all of you for allowing us the immense privilege to be on this journey together. It's quite amazing. And as we go on this journey, thinking about the NASA mission to explore the unknown in air and space, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery. And as you've gone along on this journey with us, hopefully we're doing just those things. And as we get close to the nearest point to the moon and farthest point from Earth, as we continue to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos, I would like to remind you of one of the most important mysteries there on Earth, and that's love. Christ said in response to what was the greatest command, that it was to love God with all that you are. And he also, being a great teacher, said the second is equal to it, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so, as we prepare to go out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth, and to all of you down there on Earth and around Earth, we love you from the moon.
Houston copies. We'll see you on the other side.
We will see you on the other side.
Poignant words from NASA astronaut Victor Glover, and a little bit of a love letter from the other side of the moon all the way to Earth. Glover touching on the teachings of Jesus, including to love your neighbor as yourself. We are now less than 3 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion astronauts. The Artemis 2 crew will be out of signal for about 40 minutes as they are on the other side of the moon, continuing their work photographing the lunar surface, and they will reemerge, and we will also get this view on the other side. Just about a minute and a half now until we lose communication with the astronauts aboard Orion on the Artemis 2 mission. Now, 5 days and 6 minutes since their launch on April 1st. Again, we'll be out of communication for about 40 minutes. And this really beautiful view of a crescent moon and a crescent Earth. How great thou art. "30 seconds now until we expect loss of signal. And we have confirmation of loss of signal of the Orion spacecraft as it flies behind the moon. We expect to regain communications with them in another approximately 40 minutes. This was expected as their spacecraft is now out of direct line of sight with Earth and behind the moon. And this is a poignant moment as it's the first time in over 50 years that we have humans completely unreachable by anyone else on Earth. No matter how distant or secluded, we could reach anyone living on Earth, but while the crew flies behind the moon, it's simply impossible to make contact with them. This is a live view inside the Science Evaluation Room here at Johnson Space Center and just down the hall from Mission Control. This team has been monitoring the flyby all day as the team has continued capturing targets on the lunar surface. We even got to see this team in action as they were helping the astronauts identify some of the features they were seeing on the moon but not expecting. There will be a couple of milestones during this loss of signal. The first will be when the astronauts make their closest approach of the moon at MET 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds, when we expect they'll be 4,067 statute miles above the lunar surface. Their maximum Earth altitude will be reached just 2 minutes later at 5 days, 27 minutes, and 39 seconds, when their altitude should be approximately 252,756 statute miles. Once those milestones are reached and we have confirmation, we will report the official numbers. Throughout the Artemis 2 mission, astronaut voice, images, video, and vital mission data must traverse thousands of miles, carried on signals from NASA's powerful communications systems, the Near Space Network and the Deep Space Network. Let's learn a little bit more.
NASA's Artemis 2 will send 4 astronauts around the moon, preparing humanity for a long-term lunar presence and future journeys to Mars. Enabling communication and navigation for this test flight are NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network. With antennas around the world and a fleet of relay satellites, the networks will deliver vital data to and from Earth through all phases of the mission. The networks are seamlessly integrated at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where Mission Control coordinates the network handovers. These transfers represent a delicate dance between the two networks, exchanging support as the mission shoots toward the moon. On the launch pad and during their early orbit phases, NASA's Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket will rely on communications and tracking services from the Near Space Network. After its translunar injection burn, the Deep Space Network's global array of antennas will serve as Orion's primary communication support during lunar orbit. As the mission journeys farther into space and away from Earth, signal strength weakens and bandwidth is conserved for crew communications. The astronauts will have a near constant connection to Earth, ensuring their safety on a journey farther into space than ever before. We say near constant because as Orion goes behind the moon, a planned loss in communications will occur. The Deep Space Network will be standing by to reacquire the signal as Orion reappears. The Artemis II mission also provides an opportunity to test new capabilities. Using laser links, NASA will periodically transmit Orion data to showcase the benefits laser communications could have for future human spaceflight missions. The data from Orion, sent by radio signals or laser links, is massive. The mission is gathering images, data, and video, while also generating details about mission health and crew voice files. All of that data gets processed here on Earth, where systems compress it for efficiency. In the future, we'll upgrade these systems on Earth so that image and video clarity improve with each moon mission. With the Artemis II test flight, we're evaluating the communications infrastructure that will help carry us into the future as we explore the moon and journey forward to Mars.
We are now about 33 minutes until we expect to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion. And in the meantime, I've got Dr. Kelsey Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead, here with us. Thanks for joining me, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me. This is such an exciting day.
Oh, no kidding. It has been so cool to hear you communicating directly with the crew. And I know that you have been preparing for this for years, so I am so excited for you and for your team. So just to get into that background a little bit, tell me about your background and what you've been doing on console.
My background is as a field geologist. Actually, I studied impact cratering in the field for my PhD, so all these descriptions of impact craters have me just absolutely swooning. How I got into this, though, is, during my PhD, I got an internship at NASA and ultimately never left to integrate science into flight operations. So we developed the Science Officer Console, for which this is the first mission we're supporting. We developed the Science Evaluation Room that's right upstairs, and so it's so gratifying to see this operation structure come to fruition, especially on a day like today.
I would have to imagine so. And we've got a great view of the Science Evaluation Room right now. Is there anything that has stood out to your team so far?
Absolutely. So as you might have heard in some of the press briefings and content that, we've been putting out, color and albedo were really exciting targets for us. We've heard several amazing color descriptions so far. Just to highlight maybe one of them, we heard about greenish and brownish hues near Aristarchus, which is actually a feature that we can see here from the near side. And those greenish hues could actually tell us something about the volcanic evolution of that area. So you can bet that the science team is going to be prioritizing downlinking those images and the crew audio that we didn't hear that went into those recordings to learn a little bit more.
Wow, that is fascinating. I was hearing those colors and very interested just from a personal standpoint because looking at the moon from, 250,000 miles away, we don't see green or brown. So just hearing that them being so close and getting to see that, fascinating, and I know very exciting for you. So what are you expecting to see in the upcoming portion of the flyby?
The upcoming portion is actually going to be really exciting. So right now, as we speak, while folks in the room are kind of taking their their stretch breaks and everything, the crew are still hard at work. They still have targets to image and describe during this LOS. But when we come out, the first thing, of course, we're going to hear about is Earthrise. We're really looking forward to hearing about the crew's experience with something that we can connect with, and that Apollo 8 brought us such amazing images from. But then we start to get into describing the Terminator, as well as looking for things like lofted dust, which tell us about the modern lunar environment. Then the vehicle's going to orient away from the moon for an hour and then pivot back for the eclipse observations, which is a whole different set of science observations that we're really looking forward to.
It's kind of nice that the crew will get a little break in there because they have been hitting it hard today with photos and videos and annotations. What are you hoping that the crew sees coming up? Is it that lunar dust?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, we've already gotten such great descriptions. I mean, the Terminator seems to just be like one of their favorite things to look at and describe. So I feel like, that was something we were looking forward to. I feel like we've really gotten some great descriptions. So absolutely, I'm looking to the human moment of Earthrise. Lofted dust is an exciting one, and lofted dust will be a target for them in the right around the time of Earthrise, but again in the eclipse period. So I'm really looking forward to seeing. I mean, they've already highlighted just in the course of their flyby so far how the moon has changed, and this is going to be even more dramatic change to go from their end of this kind of lunar illuminated piece of the flyby into the eclipse time frame. And I can tell you they're going to be experiencing a very different moon during that time, and I can't wait to hear what their observations are.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating, and what a privilege that we get to do that on this mission, because that's not always the case. If we had launched on a different day other than April 1st or 2nd, we wouldn't have gotten to see that eclipse. Is that right?
That's correct. April 1st and 2nd. I will say, I was asked a lot in the weeks leading up to the launch, well, what's your favorite day? And my answer truly was there is no bad day to launch to the moon. We were going to get great science out of it no matter what, but it's a really neat opportunity to, bring the sun into the picture, bring different planetary bodies into the picture while still literally keeping the moon in center stage.
Fascinating. So what differences are we looking for at each site? We're hearing a lot of different terms. We're looking at craters. We're looking at mare. What are the differences that you're hoping to see?
We do have, as you highlight, kind of different prompts for each target. That's what they're looking at in their lunar targeting plan, which I know you've been showing. And we have even different prompts for the person with the really long lens on the camera versus the people with the unaided eye. And you've heard the crew talk about, oh my goodness, when I go from one to the other, I can really detect different nuances. And that's something that we experienced in simulations, but hearing them actually, see it for real has been really gratifying. But we're looking for different things based on the target. Sometimes we're looking for color. Sometimes we're looking for texture. For the Terminator, we're looking at kind of what texture and morphologies pop out to you and what kind of diversity you see along the Terminator. You've heard, Victor especially make some comments about future impacts for exploration. So already I think that their descriptions in this first part of the flyby have told us something scientifically, but also about future surface missions.
Well, it was so interesting to hear Victor talking about
them during the flyby enables us to ask different questions. So you heard in the pre-flyby crew conference talking about, well, the same pair, Reed and Jeremy, will get to actually look at Glushko crater twice, and that looking at it from different illumination angles allows us to understand that feature better and connect color and albedo with topography and morphology